There's a fact that Starship's integrated tests are conducted just shortly before the launch time. And just recently, the B-12 booster and Ship 30 completed their first pre-flight test, despite the fact that Starship is not licensed to fly for at least the next 2 months. Let's take a closer look at this pre-launch test and find out, why are they conducting tests so early? Is SpaceX planning to launch Starship without FAA approval? On September 21st, Starship 30 was successfully mounted on top of Booster 12. What stands out is the road closure scheduled for September 23rd from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., specifically set for testing activities. All signs point in one direction. A WDR is just around the corner. And finally, SpaceX made it official on X. Propellant load test and pre-flight checkouts complete ahead of Flight 5. Let's take a closer look. When the tanks are filled with cryogenic fuel, the significant temperature difference between the freezing fuel and the warm air causes water vapor in the atmosphere to condense. This results in the characteristic thick white frost forming around the rocket. It's a visual cue that allows us to witness the fueling process in real time. We can notice something interesting. Although fuel was loaded into all of Starship's tanks, the fuel levels in both stages didn't reach full capacity. In fact, only part of the fuel tanks were filled. This indicates that it wasn't a full WDR, but rather a partial WDR, or what we could call a mini WDR. It seems the company is focusing on testing the valves and fuel plumbing systems. By conducting a partial WDR, SpaceX can thoroughly check these systems without consuming too much time. But let's not get it twisted. Just because SpaceX hasn't run a full wet dress rehearsal doesn't mean Starship isn't ready to fly. In fact, when SpaceX stacks the stages of Starship, that's a clear sign that the final phase of testing before launch has already begun. If you want to know whether a rocket is flight-ready, just look at what the engineers are doing with its hardware. Listen, both stages of Starship have already gone through separate static fire tests, and all of them were successful. The engine and fuel systems didn't show any anomalies during the tests. Right now, SpaceX has already stacked Starship. Next up is a full-blown wet dress rehearsal with the fully stacked vehicle. The final and absolutely critical step is installing the Flight Termination System, FTS. To do this, SpaceX will unstack the 2 stages of Starship again. Once the FTS is installed, the stages will be stacked one last time, ready for launch. It seems like after today, SpaceX will be doing a lot of stacking, unstacking, and a full-scale WDR to test the compatibility of all the hardware under near-launch conditions. From the WDR test to the final FTS installation usually takes about a week or even less. This means Starship is nearly ready for flight. So, when Musk tweeted that Starship Flight 5 is ready to fly, he really meant it. And I believe the SpaceX ground support team has been ready for this flight for about a month. But there's still one thing holding it back: the launch license from the FAA. Although SpaceX has shown technical readiness for the next Starship flight, the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration is still doing everything by the book, waiting for confirmation from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service before making the final decision on granting the launch license. This is exactly why Musk humorously tweeted on X, "We need multiple fish licenses to launch a rocket." Actually, well, the FAA has announced that they won't make a decision on the launch license for Flight 5 until at least November 26th, meaning we're looking at a 2-month wait. This raises an interesting question. Why has SpaceX rolled Starship out to the pad and started tests so early? Could it be that SpaceX is planning to launch Starship without a license and just pay the fines? Well, at least for now, SpaceX isn't going to take any extreme or confrontational approach. They're still fighting, but in fact, they're fighting incredibly smart and strategically. By rolling Starship out to the launch pad and conducting these public tests, SpaceX is sending a strong, unspoken message. This move shows the public that they are all ready, and the only thing standing in the way of a Starship launch is the FAA. At the same time, it subtly but very clearly tells the FAA, "We've been ready for a long time. Now it's your turn to hurry up." These pre-launch tests aren't just about the technical side of things. They're a strategic move in SpaceX's public relations campaign. Through these actions, SpaceX has successfully built excitement and gained support from the space fan community. The photos and videos of Starship on the pad have sparked a wave of enthusiasm across social media and specialized forums, indirectly putting pressure on the FAA. So, what we can do to help SpaceX launch sooner is to keep supporting them. Drop a comment with a yes if you agree. We can see that SpaceX and Elon Musk are extremely active on the media front, while also fighting relentlessly on the legal side. And these efforts are starting to pay off. The FAA is currently facing an unprecedented wave of criticism from multiple sides. Not just the public, but even Congress has voiced its dissatisfaction and called for reforms to the FAA's licensing process. In this context, we have every reason to hope for the best. Oh, there's a fascinating detail you might want to know. Engineers installed the Flight Termination System, FTS, on the rocket just days before the launch. In the realm of aerospace, where every second and every detail counts, the FTS is a non-negotiable element. Regulatory bodies, such as the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, in the United States, mandate that the FTS undergo regular testing and approval to ensure compliance with stringent safety standards. This is essential because components of the FTS, including batteries and electronic devices, can experience performance degradation over time. As a result, when engineers fit the FTS onto the rocket, it signals that the launch is merely 2 to 3 days away. So, if you see the FTS, you see the launch day. While SpaceX is busy preparing for Starship's 5th flight, the company's routine operations are continuing smoothly and without interruption. One of the standout missions on the horizon is the Crew 9 launch, part of NASA's Commercial Crew Program. At first, this launch is scheduled for September 26th and marks the 9th long-duration crew mission that SpaceX will carry out for NASA, with the goal of transporting astronauts to the International Space Station, ISS, to conduct scientific experiments and maintain the station's operations. According to the latest information, the launch schedule of the mission has been moved to September 28th due to the impact of Tropical Storm Helene. However, preparations are still proceeding as planned, without any hiccups. On September 21st, the Crew Dragon Freedom was transported to Launch Pad 40 at the Space Launch Complex 40, SLC-40, at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, Florida. By September 24th, the Falcon 9 booster was also brought to the complex, ready for final preparations. Before launch, SpaceX will conduct crucial tests such as the static fire test and dress rehearsal to ensure all systems are running smoothly. Crew 9 is a special mission because, in addition to the usual crew of 4 astronauts, this is also a rescue mission. This time, Crew Dragon Freedom will carry only 2 astronauts to the ISS: NASA astronaut Nick Hague and U.S. Space Force commander, along with Alexander Gorbanov, an astronaut from Russia's Federal Space Agency, Roscosmos. The other 2 seats on Crew 9 are reserved for NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams, who are currently aboard the ISS and will return to Earth with the Crew 9 team in February 2024. On Monday, September 23, 2024, NASA and SpaceX managers, along with international partners, participated in the Flight Readiness Review, FRR, for the SpaceX Crew 9 mission at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. For this Crew 9 mission, in addition to ensuring the safe operation of the Crew Dragon and Falcon 9 rocket, NASA and SpaceX teams had to carefully calculate medical, training, and safety requirements for the crew. You see, a typical Crew Dragon mission carries 4 astronauts into space. When Crew Dragon carries fewer astronauts than it was designed for, the weight isn't distributed as evenly, which can impact the stability of the spacecraft. To fix this, they use ballast, extra weight to balance things out. While this is common in space missions, it's still a change from the original Crew 9 plan, and the astronauts might not be as familiar with it as they would be in regular conditions. However, it's not too difficult for SpaceX. And when SpaceX successfully completes this mission and helps NASA rescue their astronaut, the relationship between SpaceX and NASA will improve to a new level. Additionally, there's a possibility that SpaceX will receive more support from NASA in putting pressure on the FAA. All right, that's it for today. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth looks at the latest advancements in space technology. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.